Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel T-Spot. In this video, well, what an eventful episode that was. With battles occurring on both sides of the timeline, the Battle of Saratoga was taking place in the 1700s, and the start of the battle between Roger Bree and Rob Cameron was happening in the present day. This really marked the beginning of the trouble that's set to occur in the modern day. And also, it could mark the beginning of the end of Jamie in the 1700s, as it wasn't looking good for him at all. So with that, let's recap, break down, and explain all that there was to take away from this episode. So let's get into it. Here is Outlander Season 7, Episode 7, Ending Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spinners from the TV series and the novels. If you enjoy the video, then feel free to hit the like button and subscribe. Thanks. The ending. As we embarked onto the ending of this episode, we saw so much happen and build up to the point of Jeremiah going missing and Roger needing to hunt for him, and also Jamie being wounded on the ground at the battlefield. Two major moments that I didn't expect to happen in this one episode. Let's start with the story in the 1980s timeline. Well, the person that Jeremiah and Amanda considered to be the knuckle of the was, in fact, William Buck MacKenzie, a character who Roger was all too familiar with due to him being the reason as to why he almost died back in the 1700s. But they were in fact both related 6 or 7 times removed. So it goes back quite a while and explains as to why he was able to travel through time. We saw that Buck ended up in the present day because he ended up near the stones. And due to the gem that he had inside of his ring, it transported him forwards to the modern time period where he saw Roger in the town and followed him back to Lallybrook, hence where he knew where he lived. Later on in the episode, Rob Cameron ultimately ended up going around for that dinner that Roger agreed to host in the previous episode. However, a date or time was never arranged, which tied into the nature of the character. He'll act how he wants in order to get what he has his eye on. And in this instance, it was more information about the time-traveling powers that are present near where they live. Rob laid his eyes on Roger's practical guide for time travelers that he'd been writing in the previous episode. And despite making out like it was a sci-fi novel that was just a cover-up, and Rob actually believed the truth behind it. Whilst Roger left Rob upstairs, Rob went through the box that had all of the letters that Claire and Jamie had been sending them. And he saw that there were true powers at Craignud, and he wanted to see them for himself. To be able to go back and see if time travel was possible, he most probably also saw the letter about the Jacobite gold, which could be his main reason for wanting to go back there. At least it is in the novel. It was Amanda's connection to Jeremiah that alerted her that Jeremiah wasn't near her in the present day, and the stones were screaming out to her as if to say that Jeremiah was in trouble. So if it wasn't for that connection, then Bree and Roger would have never known. With Rob making out that he was going to take Jeremiah to a movie in the cinema with his nephew, it looks as though he could well have taken him back in time. Within the novel, Rob Cameron actually locks Jeremiah in the tunnel where Bree was locked in a couple of episodes ago. And I feel this may also be the case in the show as well, as there was a line that was spoken to Bree around the dinner table by Jim where he said, "Will you take me to the tunnel?" So I feel this could be alluding to what could be revealed to us in the next episode. Jeremiah may be in the tunnel that he so desperately wanted to go to. With Buck MacKenzie being there, we saw that he was helping Roger in looking for Jim. And it seems as though if Roger is going to go back in time to look for him, then Buck will most likely go as well, or try to, even though it seemed as though he wanted to stay in the present day. We must remember, Buck came from 1778, the year in which he died. So it'll be interesting to see if he does make it back, or if he's just presumed dead, because he ended up spending the rest of his life in the modern day time period. Within this episode, we also saw the importance of the Tofty Club being on Jim's badge. The Tofty Club was an initiative where it essentially informed children how to stay safe. So I imagine that's why we saw it present in this episode, the episode where Jem went missing. Now let's look at the 1700s timeline. This storyline has definitely taken a back seat over the past couple of weeks, but it really came into full force in this episode. We didn't see much of Jamie, Claire, or RAM, but it instead focused on the battle, mainly from the perspective of William and the British Army. We witnessed the first of what will be 2 battles of Saratoga and the devastation that was caused. William was penciled down to be a messenger when in reality, he wanted to fight alongside his troops on the battlefield, which he did successfully do. Despite being somewhat fearful at first, we saw that he was a changed person by the end. Witnessing his close friend, Hammond, being killed, and knowing that if he was stood only a matter of centimeters to the right, then he would have most likely been killed. It painted the harsh reality of war and spurred him on and gave him an emotional edge when fighting. With it being so close to William and it being from a rifleman, it does make me wonder if it was Jamie who fired the shot, as it would have been his job to do that. With the British Army believing that they were successful in the battle when in reality they didn't gain any ground, it shows the mindset that many of the generals have and something which could lead to the inevitable defeat. The main revelation in this episode, though, came right at the end when, as the cameras zoomed into the battlefield, we saw Jamie lying on the floor in an unconscious state, looking as though he was wounded in battle. He promised Claire that he would come back, but it's not looking like he's going to return to the state that he left, if at all. Personally, I don't think he's going to be dead. I think he will just be severely wounded and will need to recover. I'll be intrigued to see what happens when Roger goes back to the 1700s and if their stories will collide in some way. The Second Battle of Saratoga takes place in October, which is 1 month after the time that we saw in this episode. With William coming across completely different after killing on the battlefield, his is a changed man. I do also wonder what that means for him moving forward, as he could well have a new mindset. We know that he's Jamie's son, so I do wonder if and when that will be revealed. Regardless, we're entering a great time in the Outlander show. Overall review. I thought this episode was a really good one. The stakes are all so high at the moment, and there's quite literally nowhere to hide from all of the action. It's been really interesting getting to see William's perspective on things and the mindset shift that he's having in the world. There's no denying that the modern-day timeline is shaping up to be the most interesting, at least I think so anyway. It feels like we tend to spend more time in it, and that's where a lot of the main plot lies, up until Jamie getting injured in this episode at least. I can't believe next week is the mid-season final. I'm gutted that the show will be taking a relatively long break, as I feel like we're really getting into the bulk of the story. With the family being split across 2 timelines, even more, Bree being on her own could cause her to be in even more danger from the spy, cunning, and evil Rob Cameron. I thought it was interesting to see that William said that there was somebody he was interested in, and then it was Rachel, because it very much feels as though Ian is interested in Rachel and that she is interested in him. So I do wonder if there will be a love triangle that will be emerging over the course of the next few episodes. Once the battle is over and the war is finished, that's something that only time will tell. I can't wait for the next episode. Well, it's bittersweet because I know we won't have another one for a long while after. But hey, bring it on. So there you have it. Outlander Season 7, Episode 7 Ending Explained. What did you think of this episode? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the video. Thank you for watching. See you soon.